Hey, welcome back to a very special dispatch from Holly McKay. Holly, how you doing? You just had
Uh,
a baby.
I did. No, I'm doing pretty well in this scheme of things. Trying to juggle a lot, but doing pretty well.
Yeah, your workload must be like triple what it was in the past at this point.
Yeah, that's the reality of working for yourself is it's you don't really there's no maternity leave. So I've pretty much been working since I was in the hospital having her. So right up until the minute I left to go to the hospital to have her, and the second that I was in the hospital having her. So that's the downside of many great things about working for yourself, but that's definitely one of the more challenges is not having that time off. So you're juggling a lot. It's certainly a lot more than I probably could have anticipated in my head.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a head bender for me too when we started out. We uh you just don't really know what you're getting into until you're right smack in the middle of it, and then and it just kind of is what it is. So what makes this video special is it's the premiere of the next generation of dancer, and I cannot wait to meet her on video, because last time I saw you was in Los Angeles, and at a baby shower, and there you were going around telling everybody that you were the size of a baby beluga at that point. But and everybody was also, of course, retorting with, "You're the cutest baby beluga we've ever seen." And now here you are. So just real quick, um, because I know she's probably like sleeping or something like that, and so still so young. Can we have a look at
Yeah,
the
she's next to me
baby?
having a nap in the stroller or pram, as we say in Australia. Cover her a little bit. There we go. She's having a
Oh
little
my
nap here. This is
God.
Raven Rita Rosa. So she's having a little dream. Aren't you,
Oh,
sweetie?
look at
Having a
that.
little dream.
Oh my God. That is
She's very
so
sweet,
beautiful.
baby.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you and Ryan
Darling.
must be so happy with that little one there. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Is she always this quiet, or does she have
She's
her
a good,
moments?
yeah, she's a good baby in the scheme of it. I mean, all babies, they need their mums, but really she's a very sweet, very easy baby. She's a good little sleeper. Good little feeder, loves to feed, knows what she wants. She's got some sass, but she's a pretty zen baby, so I'm pretty lucky in that respect.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, that's yeah,
A
that's
lot of fun.
that's yeah, no, pretty amazing stuff. And I do know that her first week of life was rather tumultuous, because her father got
Yeah,
took.
the first couple of weeks were really difficult. Ryan ended up in the hospital, so he was in hospital with me, and then the day after birth, ended up getting really sick. And he's someone who never gets sick and had all sorts of surgical complications. And so it was a really difficult couple of weeks for us. And Raven was a trooper. She would come to the hospital with me each day, and yeah, it was just from the get-go. It wasn't definitely not what I expected for my first little rest period of motherhood, which really wasn't a rest at all. But we're very lucky that my parents were visiting from Australia and Ryan's parents were visiting from upstate New York, and so I was able to get support from them, which was really nice. And he's doing really well now, back home and back into the swing of things. So it was a difficult, yeah, unexpected first couple of weeks, but yeah, we got through.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah, I was getting the blow by blow from both you and your mother, as the whole thing was going on, and with the weirdest messages coming from your father, as he kept sending me messages about, like, how do I get from Terminal 6 to Terminal 4 at LAX on the way home?
Yeah, he likes to plan his travel out a little too much. That's Dad.
Anyway, yeah, no, that's absolutely cool. I mean, in the meantime, I mean, just looking at your Substack and also at the articles that you've gotten out into the world, it's not like you haven't been not you haven't been idle. You've still got content coming out and some pretty interesting content too in the last month.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm doing my best. I'm trying. So I really appreciate the support and subscriptions, paid subscriptions for Substack really helped me to be able to continue to work and stay at home and look after my baby. So yeah, all the support is really welcome.
Yeah,
It's definitely challenging, but I love what I do. I love being able to tell these different types of stories, hopefully give people a different perspective on things that are both in the news, that are very current, and things that are a little bit more evergreen that you may not see on the front page of a newspaper. So that's really my goal, is not necessarily to be following the breaking news trends, although I'm certainly do my best to sort of be as versed in those as possible, but also just to bring other stories and other things that I think people are interested in learning and reading about, whether that be um, issues to do with domestic issues or more broader humanitarian issues, or things that occasionally are seemingly unrelated to the world sort of stage or to foreign policy. So I hope to be able to continue that because I do really enjoy that. And I still think there's a place for that in a world that's very saturated with the breaking news and the sort of up to the minute, which is really important, but we can't lose sight of those other stories as well.
yeah, yeah. So let me take a little bit here and go over. I mean, because the key stories on your Substack last month. Um, I mean, they I mean, they're in depth. They're exercises in investigative journalism that are worth the read. And so you wrote one about babies that are born drug dependent. A bit of a
Yeah,
heartbreaking one.
yeah, it's an unfortunate phenomenon that really comes hand in hand with the opioid sort of epidemic that started, which has sort of transpired into to fentanyl and other things. But sort of the level of mothers that are addicted to these substances, and their babies are then born addicted. And so when these babies are born, they're then going through withdrawal symptoms, and it's really horrific to think about and to sort of watch. But that's an unfortunate part of what's happened in our society. And um, you see many cases where hospitals are discharging some of these women, without sort of the proper protocols of knowing their addiction. And in many cases, their infants are dying. They're being suffocated, for example, if the mother is sleeping. And um, these drugs can often make you sort of fall asleep very quickly and suddenly, and they're suffocating their own children. And there's all sorts of horrific things that happen that, again, you don't see these in the news, but it's certainly a big problem. And I think, again, there's a lot that needs to be done in that way. And that starts with awareness.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. And it's a continuing and enduring problem. And the fact that you cover it from time to time to just keep people up to date on the snippets of how it affects individual human life is it's admirable. And then you wrote one about and I've been following this in terms of the inefficiencies, losses, and costs. But you wrote one about $200 billion of tax money being lost in the middle of the COVID crisis.
Yeah, I mean, probably shouldn't come as a great surprise, but it's still very maddening, is because that is US taxpayers' dollars. Of course, there were all these COVID relief programs that were put in place both by President Trump and then President Biden. We're talking about trillions of dollars in different relief programs, and a lot of it, went to people in need who needed that to survive, to get through that difficult time. But a lot of it was just squandered. People making fake businesses, people, essentially using dead people's identities to, create employee bases. And there was very little checks on any of this done. There was very little, I think, at the time, especially being an election year, there was a sort of a need just to kind of appease the public and get these programs out. There really wasn't the staffing or personnel to be checking on a lot of these things. So people just got away with stealing millions and millions. And the federal government has come after a number of them. But for every one that they sort of come after, there's another 10 who's probably managed to get away with that. And so that is very maddening, because that is a lot of money that's caused, put toward inflation now. We're all paying the price for that. And I really hope that's a lesson to the government in these sort of situations of what happens when you just try to give a whole bunch of handouts without any real checks and balances, and what happens to that. And it's just upsetting because just as a population, you want to believe that people around you do the right thing. And unfortunately, we can't have nice things because people don't have respect for that. And that is, that's really difficult pill to swallow, I think, too, is just seeing the breadth of theft, and dishonesty in the American population. And you can argue that can happen anywhere, but I think that it's sort of upsetting when you see those numbers on paper.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that the consequence effect of all that is that over the last 2 years, I have noticed that the degree of paperwork that is now required for anyone participating in these kinds of programs, or for people continuing to operate organizations that work with these kinds of programs, the paperwork load has gone up extremely high, with all kinds of new requirements for oversight, compliance, and other things. And also that there are a new series of ongoing investigations to attempt to recover much of the money that was fraudulently taken. And it's a bit of a mess. Total size-wise compared to the good that was done, hard to say still whether or not this was just a cost of getting that much aid out that quickly in the middle of a crisis. But it's certainly changed the landscape of what organizations have to put up with now in terms of oversight going forward. And that may actually be a good thing, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that it has to be that way, but people prove time and time again they can't be trusted, and that's the unfortunate part because people that stole money also took money from programs and people that were in need because often cases there was only a certain amount in the pot, so to speak. And so when fraudulent people come in to take that, then the people that are in need often miss out. And that's horrible too. So I think that I hope that there are a lot of lessons learned by multiple administrations on this.
Oh yeah, well, it's certainly put a lot more compliance paperwork on my desk for some of the stuff that I do. That's for sure. Um, and then you wrote something or published something this month about your trip to Saudi Arabia. How and a
Yeah,
little
that was
recap on
a
that.
little bit earlier this year, when I wasn't as pregnant. But yeah, so please go and read that. It's quite a contrast from visiting Saudi Arabia in 2018 to visiting it in 2023. It is a vastly different place. So I won't give too much away, but go and read that and you can sort of find out what it's like to be a tourist in Saudi Arabia and traveling across the country as a woman. Um, Again, incredibly different place than in 2018, which was the last time I was there.
There you go. Yep, that's a teaser. And yep, no spoilers in this video on that one. Let's see. And the last one that you wrote is, an interesting technological expose about the knife bomb, which is probably, I mean, if you talk about, um, a weapon designed to kill an individual and the consequence effects of having such a thing in one's inventory that are there, what caused it, and all that kind of stuff. Here is a piece of equipment built by the United States that was basically designed to murder individuals. And So tell us a little bit about that, because you just published that one last
Yeah,
week.
so the ninja bomb's been around for a little while now, but it essentially, instead of releasing explosives, it sort of fans out and releases a whole bunch of knives, and it's very meticulous. I mean, so you could be sitting in a car with somebody, and if you're the target, you're going to get, sliced into nothing. The person next to you won't even be touched. So the idea of it is to reduce that sort of collateral damage. These are expensive weapons to produce, but they're often used to particularly to target sort of Al Qaeda leaders in Syria and other places there that they can, when they're very specific. Rumor has it that that was used to kill the Al Qaeda chief in Kabul last year. Um, Alman Zawahiri. So, it's very specific. But again, it's unfortunately probably not something that can be used extensively in battle because of the price tag. But as somebody who reports on these wars and who does get very upset about civilian casualties inflicted by anybody, and again, as someone who doesn't, is not a big supporter of the military industrial complex, I do support the innovation of weapons like these, because I think that if you have that specific target, and you're sure of that, then that can certainly reduce the amount of devastation that happens around it. And so I think in this day and age, that is something that, unfortunately, war is a reality. But if we can do what we can to minimize those sorts of casualties, something like this is worthwhile.
Yep, yep. No, I yeah, yeah. It's a very much the hallmark of the United States to get more and more specific in terms of who we go after, how we go after them, because we have the tech to do so and the money to create systems like these. But not everybody does, nor does everybody care to do so. Which brings me to the final piece that I want to talk to you about today. Is you're still war reporter, from afar at this point, for at least for the time being, and hopefully, like maybe a little bit longer than at least for the time being, because you get that little baby now. But I want to get you a quick update from you on your perspectives on two wars that are ongoing, where the degree of indiscriminate damage being done, or the apparent appearance of indiscriminate damage being done, is much more pervasive. So let's start with Ukraine, and then let's finish with Gaza.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Ukraine is something that's very protracted. It's continuing to go on. It's probably going to continue to go on for some time, and obviously overshadowed a little bit now by what's happening in the Middle East. But that's probably a gift to Putin, essentially. But yeah, unfortunately, Ukraine, the Ukrainians are still grinding away, trying to protect their land. But I don't see that sort of ending anytime soon, unfortunately. And then with the Middle East, that too is an awful situation. It's a war that's been going on really for just decades with no end in sight. Um, I try to see it from both perspectives, which that in itself angers people, and kind of the amount of hate that journalists who are simply trying to be neutral in many cases, even though it's a situation where journalists often aren't neutral, but just the sort of the amount of hate that emanates in this particular war is quite mind blowing. But um, it's very hard to cover in that sense. Um, Again, even saying you can see it from both sides generates a huge amount of hate. But it's an off, unfortunately, Hamas is a terrorist organization that governs the Gaza Strip, and the Gazans, I hope, deserve much better than that. But also, you can't blame Israel for wanting to defend itself, but at the same time, the amount of civilian casualties that come each time there is one of these wars or flare-ups, it's unacceptable. So um, it's just a very heartbreaking situation where there is no winner to that war. There is no real victory for either side. And I can see this again protracting for quite a period of time without sort of a huge resolution in sight.
Yeah, well, I don't see any short-term solution to either war. As a matter of fact, unfortunately, I see a lot of incentive for both of these wars to continue for a long time. It's in the interest of both all parties, essentially, they're limited on resources, which means you can't get clear victories one way or another. In either case, there are outside parties involved in, particularly in Gaza, that are able to perpetuate this kind of conflict, and they seem to have very strong political interests to do so. So, yeah, you're not going to run out of work anytime soon covering wars, Holly.
Yeah, it's very heartbreaking. Such darkness. It's very heartbreaking.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the issues recap. I'd like to finish this video with one more look at that cute little baby, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, she's still sleeping.
She's still asleep. I was kind of hoping she would
Tried to
stir a little
remove
bit
her
before
thingy and she
everything
had
was
a
done.
reflex moment. She's having a little reflex.
There we go.
Her
Anyway,
little where the wild things are. Aren't you,
yeah.
sweetie?
Uh,
Uh,
God, I cannot wait to meet that kid in person. It's yeah, East Coast, West Coast. It's a bit of a schlep to get there. But anyway, yeah. Congratulations on the baby.
Thank you.
You guys are blessed to have such a cute little child to dote on. And I know it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of energy from
Oh
everything else
yeah,
that you're doing, but it's
definitely
the
worth it.
definition of labor of love.
Absolutely, definitely worth it. She's a special little thing. So love it a bits. Don't I, Raven? Love you bits.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks a lot for that update on things that are going on in the world, and things that are going on in the world of your investigative reporting. Very clearly, people should read the Substack and continue to pay attention and look out for your articles as they appear in other publications. And thank you, Holly, for this dispatch covering what happened in the month of October. It was a lot, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Dennis.